new age is upon us, and yet the past refuses to rest in its shallow grave. For those who hide behind the false image of the Son of Man shall stand before God.
Say, I have seen the cheetah. I have smelt them. I have had personal experience of these. And there are people who claim that these creatures are gods. There are people, sir, who claim that these creatures are experimenting on us. That is a lot of rubbish. These creatures are harvesting us. These creatures are not aliens, Mr. Ike. These creatures are sexually compatible with our women. And what does that tell you? It tells you that they came from here. They are part of us. And this makes them all the more dangerous. They know us very, very, very well. They know the great weaknesses of our minds, just as they know the great strengths of our minds. They operate in what I call the gray area of human existence, that side of our lives which we don't want to acknowledge the existence of. They create, African tradition says that the Chitauli, where they engaged God himself in a terrible war, and God defeated them, the real God, Nkulunkulu, the creator. God defeated them, and he closed their mouths so that they are unable to talk or to eat food anymore. But we are told, say, that the Chitauli fatten on the energy that we human beings give them. They make us to fight each other. And when the whole land is drowning in death and fear and terror, when hundreds and hundreds of people are angry and afraid, the Chitauli get fed.
Called the Book of the Cave of Treasures. It tells of fallen angels and the bastard children called Nephilim. God destroyed the Nephilim's bodies and doomed them to wander the earth in an invisible dimension, and they are still terrifying men. In our modern paradigm, they are known as demon spirits. The word demon is from the Greek language and means knowledge. The demon knowledge is greater than man's. The Bible tells of their creation in Genesis chapter 6, and they were the cause of the destruction of life on earth. The Apocrypha and early Jewish writings expound on these evil spirits. The Book of Enoch tells of their giant stature and how they manipulated the genetics of man and animals, in every imaginable way. In other words, no stone was left unturned in their evil experiment.
And in my opinion, the correct one is that the sons of God were demonic beings or fallen angels, and that they came down to earth, they lusted after the daughters of men, they married them, and produced this amazing progeny, this hybrid progeny of the Nephilim. And the very word Nephilim does not mean giants. It comes from the root Nephal, fallen one.
These beings are demonic, not aliens from another planet. They live here in an invisible dimension, sentenced by God. They are not here to help, they are here to destroy. Ufologists point out there are many ancient drawings and cave art depicting them, and their flying machines. I believe some of this is true. But we do have to be careful about our imagination. Jewish writings state they have been stripped of their apparel, go naked and have horrible faces.
You know, do UFOs have occult or demonic origins? But the idea of actually digging into the whole story from a governmental perspective, you're quite right. It isn't something, I never really anticipated getting into at all.
Were you reluctant to go this way? I see you at occasional UFO conferences. Yeah. You're always so erudite and careful about your research and everything. And it would seem to me that if you were to tell your colleagues, hey, I'm researching whether UFOs are demonic. Well, let's explore that for a second, because it sort of becomes an underlying theme in the book, is that the possibility that these agents and this agency that was investigating this stuff had somehow tried to establish communication, had opened some sort of a door, a portal, a window, and that things came in and that shouldn't have come in. Why don't you talk about that in an overall sense, and then we'll get into some specifics.
Yeah, sure. This was basically the idea that, rather than sort of nuts and bolts spacecraft landing, as we said, on the White House lawn, the idea was that people, literally within the Defense Department, were sort of consulting ancient texts and books on demonology and using archaic rites and rituals to quite literally summon up these entities that, the UFO research community calls the Greys. They weren't trying to contact them by radio or whatever, radio waves or anything like that. It was literally, invoking and using ancient rites and rituals. And the story was, that they didn't necessarily come through in nuts and bolts craft. The group actually came to believe over time that, this was more of like a hologram type thing, that these weren't sort of flesh and blood entities. They were almost like a demonic intelligence, if you like, that in some cases weren't even sort of, had physical form, although they could manifest physically in some respects, that the group believed. So in other words, the idea was that this portal was opened. Now, by portal, in simplistic terms, we're talking about a gateway to another realm that some people would quite possibly correctly, would suggest was like another dimension.
Over the world are trying to figure out what caused a mysterious blue light to spiral in the sky over Norway on Wednesday.
As UFO sightings go, this one was as good or as weird as it gets.
A light appearing high in the Arctic sky, baffling those who saw it and exciting a lot of comment. Early yesterday morning, just before dawn, this appeared in the Norwegian sky. A blue light, small at first, growing into a spiral, and then disappearing into what appeared to be a black hole. In the northern community of Trøndelag and on a Norwegian military base, cell phones snapped, video cameras rolled, and bloggers got busy.
Tonight, Norwegian authorities are investigating strange lights seen in the Arctic sky. The spiraling white light was seen for several minutes Wednesday morning. Locals say the light appeared to be bigger than the moon. Thousands of Norwegians bombarded the Meteorological Institute to ask what that light could have possibly been. Some feared it could have been a meteor, others a black hole, and there are even those that thought it could be aliens.
Before this happened to me, I had no idea anything like this could happen. I was awakened by a presence. Then I began to see these faces, and I wasn't quite sure what was going on. There was a long, like, needle. They said they were going to put this into my head, and it scared me to death.
I started to live in denial that it was even happening. I said, you know, I want to see. I looked up, and they started to lift me towards this just enormous craft. It was terrifying. And they're doing something to me. It's not something that's in my head at all. It's real. It's happening.